Japanese executive once told me that the most dangerous moment in a cross-cultural negotiation isn't when someone says no, it's when they say yes and mean something else entirely.
That mismatch between words and intent is at the heart of most international business failures. Today we explore the language and cultural intelligence you need to navigate it.
High context versus low context cultures, hierarchical versus flat communication styles, relationship first versus task first orientations, it's all on the table today.
Welcome to Advanced English in Context. Today's episode covers intercultural communication, one of the most nuanced and practically important domains for any advanced English speaker working in a global context.
We'll look at two scenarios: a misunderstanding in a US-Japanese business meeting that nearly derails a deal, and a consultant briefing an executive on what went wrong and why.
As you listen, pay attention to indirect language, face-saving strategies, and how sophisticated speakers manage ambiguity without making things worse.
Conversation 1. A US-Japanese business meeting. I'm Greg, an American VP of Business Development. Sarah, you're Ms. Tanaka, Senior Director from the Japanese partner firm. Ms. Tanaka, I'll cut to the chase. We need a decision on the joint venture structure by Friday. The board has approved the terms. All we need is your sign-off.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. We have reviewed the proposal carefully and find many aspects to be of considerable interest. There are, however, certain points which may require further internal discussion on our side.
Right, so you're saying yes to the overall structure, just need to nail down a few details? We can do that in the next 30 minutes if we work through it now.
It may not be possible to resolve all outstanding matters in that time frame. We would not wish to rush a decision of this significance.
I hear you, but Friday is a hard deadline for us, regulatory filing requirements. Is there any way to get to a preliminary agreement today and finalize the details over the coming week?
We would need to consult with our leadership before making any commitment, even a preliminary one. Perhaps we could reconvene tomorrow morning after we have had the opportunity to confer internally.
Tomorrow morning works. We'll pick up from the liability clauses in Article 7.
That would be acceptable. We look forward to continuing our productive dialogue. Let's decode what actually happened in that meeting. When Ms. Tanaka said the proposal was of considerable interest, she was not giving approval. In high-context Japanese business culture, this is polite acknowledgement, nothing more.
Greg interpreted it as a yes and immediately pushed for closure, a classic low-context error. In cultures like the US or Australia, directness is valued. In Japan, ambiguity often signals discomfort or disagreement.
We would not wish to rush a decision of this significance. This phrase does enormous work. Translated into low-context English, we are not ready, and your deadline is creating pressure we find inappropriate.
Confer internally is the formal equivalent of talk to our bosses. In hierarchical organizations, no decision, however preliminary, can be made by a representative alone. Respecting this is non-negotiable.
Conversation 2. After the meeting, Greg debriefs with Sophie, an intercultural business consultant.
Sophie, I feel like I pushed too hard today. They seemed uncomfortable, but I couldn't tell if we were making progress or not.
You weren't misreading it. The signals were there. They were politely refusing your timeline while keeping the relationship intact. That's sophisticated communication, not evasion.
I've heard about high-context communication, but in the moment it's hard to calibrate. How do you know when considerable interest means yes versus, let me think about it versus a polite no?
There are tells. Enthusiasm in high-context cultures is typically restrained, but it's there. They'll lean forward, ask specific follow-up questions, use affirmative language about next steps. What you got today were hedges and deferrals.
So certain points which may require further internal discussion is a red flag?
In this context, yes. It's face-saving language for, we have significant concerns, possibly about the liability terms or the equity split, and we cannot say that directly in this setting.
What should I do differently in tomorrow's meeting?
Start by explicitly creating space. Say something like, we want to make sure we've understood all your concerns fully before we move forward. Is there anything in the proposal that you'd like to revisit or that warrants further discussion?
That's much better than what I was doing. I was pushing rather than inviting.
Precisely. In relationship-first cultures, trust is built before business is done. You can't shortcut that process without jeopardizing the whole partnership.
From the second conversation, tells. Borrowed from poker, a tell is a subtle, often unconscious signal that reveals what someone is really thinking. In negotiation and communication, reading tells is an advanced skill.
Hedges and deferrals, two related but distinct communication tactics. A hedge softens certainty, it may be possible. A deferral delays decision, we'll need to discuss internally. Together they signal resistance without confrontation.
Creating space is a phrase from facilitation and coaching. It means deliberately opening room in a conversation for someone to speak honestly. Contrast this with filling space, talking to avoid silence or to push your agenda.
Jeopardizing, a formal alternative to risking or threatening. You jeopardize a relationship, a deal, a career. It carries a sense of serious, potentially irreversible harm. Use it to elevate the register of a warning. Slow repeat. First phrase. There are, however, certain points which may require further internal discussion on our side. This is a perfect hedge. Listen to the stress. However, certain points may require.
Slow. There are, however, certain points which may require further internal discussion on our side. Full speed. There are, however, certain points which may require further internal discussion on our side.
Second phrase. In relationship-first cultures, trust is built before business is done. You can't shortcut that process without jeopardizing the whole partnership.
Keyword. Jeopardizing. Jeopardizing. 4 syllables. Full phrase. You can't shortcut that process without jeopardizing the whole partnership. Now at your natural pace.
Quiz. Question 1. Greg said he needed to nail down a few details. What does this mean? A. Remove unnecessary details. B. Finalize specific points. Or C. Present the details publicly.
Answer. B. To nail something down means to make it definite and agreed upon. It's a common idiom in professional English. Let's nail down the timeline. Can we nail down the deliverables?
Question 2. Sophie said the Japanese team was using face-saving language. What is the primary purpose of face-saving language? A. To be dishonest. B. To protect dignity and avoid embarrassment. Or C. To gain a negotiating advantage.
Answer. B. Face-saving language allows speakers to express concerns or disagreement without creating embarrassment for either party. It's not deceptive. It's a culturally appropriate form of indirect communication.
In a globalized world, language fluency without cultural fluency is only half the equation. Today you've built both. Apply them next time you're in a cross-cultural conversation.
Subscribe, and in the comments tell us about a cross-cultural misunderstanding you've experienced. Next up, the language of law and contracts. English 063. See you there.